reasons. These are some of the belongings that were found in the desert when they've done their walks. And right here are the carpet slippers that are worn by the last person in the migrant group, and they go along and drag their carpet slipper along to block out any of the footprints. And these tortilla cloths are usually from people from El Salvador. They dig into tortilla cloths, and they leave them there. What I did learn is this color of the tank, it's kind of an aqua color, is apparently the universal color code for safe water to drink. Unfortunately, the vigilantes and the militia people and people that don't have their right heart in the right place also know that, so they look for these and destroy them if they can. The Good Samaritans, their jobs are they do water drops in the desert, they do searches, they administer first aid, and they also run the El Comedor, which is a shelter house in Sonora, Mexico, that takes the deported people, and it's kind of a holding until they can get somebody to come up to get them or whatever. So it's always in need and always very busy. This is a tortilla cloth that Randy found, and he thought that it was really cool because it's the Good Shepherd. And so he has that hanging in his narthex of his church. This is Nellie Jo David. She is a member of the desert people, which are also the Tohono O'odham. I don't say it near as good as she does, but that's pretty close. She had many things to say about the changes that have happened since the militarization of the borderline. Her reservation is about the size of Connecticut, so it's a pretty good size. Even though Connecticut's a little state, it's still a big area. Her feeling is that the Homeland Security people and whoever are trying to erase the O'odham people. They have this rule called the 100-mile border rule, and it makes our Department of Homeland Security probably the most powerful person in the country. You all know who that is. Her name is Kirsten Jensen. She can disregard any law of any kind within 100 miles of the border if it pertains to what they consider their mission. And they have done many, many things to the native people. They don't follow their reservation laws. They have removed their healthcare system. That most all of the indigenous people have their own healthcare systems supplied by the government, and they no longer have one. They've set up multiple checkpoints, and harassment is awful. They use techniques like, what do they call it? Exclusion. And what happens is these native people are going through these checkpoints, and if their answers are such that they're attending a funeral for grandma, whoever, they can make or break whether or not they go to those funerals. And apparently that's a very common thing that they just do to be mean. They've also destroyed water wells. They bring in big bulldozers and knock them down. And they have also diverted water from the mighty Santa Cruz River, which is totally dry now. The only time water flows through it is when it's during the rainy season. or raining actively. And they're also under constant surveillance. The Homeland Security people come in and they put up these elevated towers. Elevated towers that are for the surveillance, and those are purchased from the Israeli government, and they're surveillance and also weapon systems that we are very interested in, apparently. And one of their selling points is that they are field tested in Palestine. Well, that should make us all feel really good. Those towers also emit constantly microwaves, and they've had several health issues in their older people in the tribes from that constant microwave. I don't know if I told you, she's working on her PhD and plans to come back to her tribe and help them strengthen their ability to take back some of their things that have been removed from them. On the reservation, poverty is very, very prevalent, and the drug cartels take advantage of that. They'll come in and take their young kids and who have no money and give them a little money and use them to haul drugs and haul whatever they want to get across the border. They've also made their sacred lands into toxic dumps, and their eminent domain is just overwhelming. They come in, they build the towers in those sacred lands. She said the one way you can tell who people are is if they're driving a nice car. I didn't say a new car, but a nice car. They're either Border Patrol, drug cartels, or both. And apparently that's a problem too. One of her concerns was this checkpoint harassment. For her to go visit her grandmother, she has to go through 3 checkpoints, and they don't rush you through. So, and that was a real irritation that she has. All right. This is Tony Sedgwood. And ladies, notice that nice t-shirt he's wearing? I put that on there just for you all. He's a ranch owner. The ranch extends into Mexico and also the United States. And the name of the ranch is the Carmencita Ranch. One of his concerns that he talked to us last year and this year is about the terrible erosion problems caused by the wall and also by the Border Patrol who come in and build these streets, or roads rather, so that they can monitor their towers and monitor the wall. It rains there they have 2 rainy seasons of the year. And it's July and August and November and December. I've been there twice in November and haven't seen a drop of rain, so I don't know when that happened. But when it does happen, apparently it's monsoon type rains, and they'll get 18 to 24 inches of rain at one time, which is also the only time that Santa Cruz River now runs is when it's actively raining. Everybody see the t-shirt? This is one of the official markers. It's on his property, just on the backside, probably a yard away from the wall. And I sneaked through the crack in the wall and took a photo of it. I don't know how well you can see it there, but that's the official one. And here he is in his t-shirt again. He was just telling us mostly about the erosion, and it's just a serious problem. They lose a lot of their grazing land and whatever because they have no water. It's been diverted. And also, they've taken out many of the rivers or dammed them or somehow have diverted water. Down there, water is life, and water is a form of war too. Maybe you'll remember some of these pictures from before. This is what they call a Normandy wall. The wall is back this way, and then this section, which was right by where the river is, right up there. And this, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, totally washed out, and they're just trying their best to try to get it back to being built, but it's a slow process.
So that's the border wall, right there.
That, in that section, you can see it extends on up here. I have better pictures than this, but this just is to show you the difference. And it's called a vehicle barrier. So cars and trucks and whatever can't pass through, but obviously you can climb over or under it. This is the mighty Santa Cruz riverbed. You can see where the wall washed out here. They still haven't got that repaired, and this is all that's left there. And the erosion, and they've come in to build these walls, or to build these roads, and take out major amounts of vegetation. And there it is again. The wall is up here, and it comes down. I don't have it in the view there.
Can normal citizens drive those border roads?
Not much, it's usually just border patrol.
Okay.
While we were getting this little talk from Rancher Tony in the t-shirt, the border patrol walked through, or drove through, right through the middle of the group. Didn't stop, wave, nothing, just checking out what we were doing, and went on their way. So after we finished at the ranch, we had lunch. And this is a little hole in the wall that we went to last year, and I was totally amazed that they could serve that many people and seat us and get us out of there so quickly. And they repeated the performance, so it was great. And being the foodie I am, I couldn't pass up taking a picture of some of the food. This was a shrimp taco and a fish taco, and it was fabulous. Here's where they had us all seated, and we were all chowing down because our next stop, oh, wait a minute. This was our first encounter with the military. There's 500 troops there right now in this area. We found one of them, she was having lunch, her and her workmate, and she apparently heard the way we talked, and it caught her ear, and so she came over and started talking with some Minnesota folks. Her fiance is in Brainerd, Minnesota, so she was just thrilled to see anybody from any place but, you know, this area. We asked her how the mission was going. She said that they had been putting up razor wire, and 3 days later, they went to the same area and took all that razor wire down. So she wasn't real clear on what their mission to do was there. Let's see here. We asked her, this was right before Thanksgiving. I came back on the Sunday that we had the big Thanksgiving dinner here. And so it was close by, and she's a little disappointed she's not going to be home for Thanksgiving. And since then, they've extended it through Christmas, so she's going to miss that too. A very, very pleasant lady. Okay, so then we left there and we went to the Tony Estrada Law Enforcement Center. This is the only confinement center in this county. I think they have like 367 beds or something, Third County. And this is Sheriff Tony Estrada, and I assure you, he's no Joe Arpaio. He very kind kind-hearted, obviously Hispanic, one of two Hispanic people in the state of Arizona that are sheriffs. He kept us for an hour and a half telling us how safe Nogales, Mexico was. Well, a lot of other things too, but he emphasized the safety. And that is his whole policy, is safety is number one. And when he described that to us, he said, if there's someone driving through town and their taillight is out, then they go and ticket them for the taillight. And they don't necessarily call Border Patrol if they're brown skinned, unless they're causing some sort of problem to safety. And that's a totally different policy than what we have here in Olmsted County. If you're picked up for anything, well, I won't get into that. I'll let Beth do that. Let's see. The population of Santa Cruz is 45,000 people in the county, and there are 3,700 Border Patrol in that county as well. So, you know, they're pretty much stepping on each other most of the time. When you see one and see three doing nothing, is often the case. If you want to see the crime level rise, you have to go to Tucson, Phoenix, and that's where the drug distribution happens in those big cities. But he said Nogales, nobody cares, because we're just a little town, and you know, we're safe. 90% of the hard drugs that pass into our country come through the Nogales port of entry, and it's usually in produce trucks. The interesting story was on the Sunday we left to come back home, we went through one of the checkpoints on the highway, and it was closed on Sunday. So I don't know how much they actually catch there, but it's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, they didn't even, there was no place to stop. You just went right on through. He wanted to group shot with all of us, so that's what this is. And he also shared with us that we asked him, well, what is the answer to immigration? Because we obviously don't know. And his answer was, instead of sending $50 billion to put up a wall, which will not work, we should provide some economic support to Central America and to Mexico, so that they can at least take care of the situation and probably prevent them from wanting to leave. Because right now they're so poor, the drug cartels have carte blanche over them, the ones coming through. The immigration problem, it pales in comparison to the drug problem. The United States is the largest consumer of our drugs. The U.S. has 5% of our population of the world and 95% of the drug consumption. And his little quote that he apparently is famous for is, where there is poverty, crime is close by. So that's Tony. They've built this facility and named it after him since he's been the sheriff there for the last 26 years and been in law enforcement for over 50 years. So he was really, like I say, we were there an hour and a half listening to him, and he was very interesting. So the next day we went on our desert walk, which we do every year. And we were about 15 feet into the walk. And Randy found a water bottle. And this is something new. Last year, they were always containers that had like canvas or burlap wrap around them. And now they've started making black ones so they don't reflect the light in the desert. And we found an empty one there. And we had a high school person with us, and she's doing big paper, and she thought that would be a good thing to have to show people, so she took it with her. Oh, we're just trailing off before we get to the difficult terrain. You gotta look at this, see where the cactus are, where the rocks are. It's not an easy place to walk. And the migrants travel at night, and it's very, very dark in the desert. This is some of the belongings that were left behind by the migrants. The people, the coyotes, as they call them, are the people who latch on to these migrants and say, well, I'll help you get to the border, and it'll only cost you $4,000, for example. Well, when they get to the border and cross it, and the people have no maps, they have nothing really, and they've spent all their money on this coyote, and so they, they're just left there. And also, if they take them kind of hostage, which is commonly done, they force them to leave their belongings in the desert because that annoys the local people because they're leaving trash in their desert. And that's the kind of attitude that some of them have. This was an old toothbrush that we found. This is a pack rat nest, and they're huge. And this is not as neatly packed together as the ones I saw last year on my photos, but it's the best I can do. This is a barrel cactus, and it's got the fruit up here above it. It kind of looked like little baby pineapples. I was very tempted to grab one of those and bring it home, but I didn't think it'd winter over in Minnesota. This is a memorial that the Good Samaritans provide for folks that they have found in the desert. When they find a body, they call the coroner. And the coroner comes out and examines the area, takes the belongings. They do DNA testing and file it, which is kind of a new thing they haven't always done. So almost 4,000 people have died in the desert in the last few years. And of those, 39 have been identified. So it's a very slow process. And this is just the way things look there, and then the wires going over. Came upon this, and I'm thinking these migrants are traveling at night. And these big holes, this is a javelina burrow. Javelina is the actual name for it is a collared peccary from South America. In the last 200 years or so, they've been migrating north and have become excellent dwellers in the desert. Randy was telling us the problem is you smell these things before you see them, and if you smell one, you should probably go the other direction. Apparently they have a scent gland similar to the skunk. This is a riverbed that's been dried up and now is full of this long grass that's very, very easy to get tripped in. You have to be really careful. And this is from the cactus wren. They take that grass and they make this balloon-shaped nest, and they're really kind of cool looking. My photo is terrible, but I just take pictures. I'm not a photographer. Let's see. This is a marker. Apparently they found some remains here and they have not identified it yet, and so they mark it with rocks. And then the Good Samaritans will come back and do a little service and put up a cross or whatever like this. And here we were coming back after our journey into the desert. Only had one person fall, which was remarkable, and it wasn't me. This is some of the prickly pear that you see around him. I mean, I just have to put myself in the steps of those migrants traveling at night, not being able to see this. I avoided this kind of thing at all costs. Next morning, this would have been Saturday morning, we started out early at 7:30 with our SOAW workshop, which we'll go into that a little bit. This was the Veterans March down to the wall. The veterans are extremely active in immigration policy. And we're getting ready for the big march. Here we are taking our crosses. It was pretty good size. You got to this area of Nogales, and if you turn to the left, you go to Mexico side. If you turn to the right, you go to the Tucson side. That's what they call it. So some of the signage was just interesting to me, so I took some photos of it. This says, "There's nothing more dangerous than a veteran against war." Whatever that means to people. Their big bugaboo is the deporting of veterans that is actively being done. These people are serving their country, go through the process, get all the benefits that being a veteran has, and then they're looking in the rosters and finding that they have no papers, and so therefore they're being deported. They're not happy. Well, this is that beautiful razor wire that the president spoke of. This is my first view of it, and you can see it's along the top of the wall. And this is the wall, and this is another addition. They have now, you can see just a little demarcation there. That's a new mesh that they put up against the slats of the wall for more protection from the enemy. Excuse me. And there you can see the mesh a little better. And here is the surveillance tower along the wall, plus the razor wire, plus the mesh, plus the wall. So I felt really safe there. This is another addition that they've done in the last year. This is called the pedestrian wall, a pedestrian fence rather. And this area is where we as a group and other groups meet and have rallies and protests and so forth at the wall, because the people on the Mexico side also, they have a stage over there that they have performers or whatever. This is just kind of an annoyance to people to let us know that they are there and this is what's happening. And this is basically dead space then. And there are signs that you are not supposed to cross into that. And then the helicopters that flew over 3 times on 2 different days, just to let us know. I mean, they made the loop down to where the crowd ended and back up 3 times. I don't know what the expense of that is, but if you take mail one anywhere, it's pretty darn hefty price. So that was their indication that they're there. And I just like this sign. It just speaks to me. Humanitarian aid is never a crime. This is the group No More Deaths that they use. U.S. imperialism caused the crisis in Honduras. Here we are taking advantage of that pedestrian wall. There's no place we had to sit, so. It's quite an ecumenical group of people that are interested in immigration and reform. The Quakers are very active there also. And I have to admit, some of our group did go through the wall, the pedestrian wall, and put their crosses up there just so we could photograph them. You can see these are people on the Mexico side, because it's a good crowd over there. And here he is sneaking. This is their sign. And this is me getting ready to put my, I had to have proof that I was actually there because I was taking most of the pictures. So someone took a shot of me. There's my cross from you guys here that blessed it for me. And then we had a communion service, which we have done the last 2 years and probably will continue. We had a very nice communion, or a very nice service followed by communion, and then we had people that we were serving on the other side. We had to poke it through those little holes, poke the bread through the holes to the people on the other side. So that's what she's doing there. And our crosses are put up. This was just a view of the monarchs on the other side there. It's a common symbol used for migration, is the monarch butterfly. And there's another view. And we had, it's a very spiritual meeting that we have down there. They have speakers talk to us, they have music, they have people of faith that are preaching, I suppose you call it. And we were burning sage, and it's just a very spiritual feeling. Both of us there. This is Rito. He was with our group. And question comes up about racial profiling. This member of our group from Mankato, he was stopped twice at the border checks. One time he was asked for papers, and they asked if they would open the trunk of his rental car. And he was ready to do that, and one of the white people in the car said, "You can't do that without a warrant." And so then the Border Patrol thought, oh, well, they must be okay if they know rules like that, so they let him go. And just another view of the wall. It's such an ominous view. This was from the rally. And this is from Dwight Eisenhower. "I hate war, as only a soldier who has lived it can, and only one who has seen its brutality, its futility, and its stupidity." And from General Dwight David Eisenhower, who happens to be a Kansan. These paintings were lined up almost as far as you could see of people who have been family members who've been lost in the desert, and these portraits are made, and they have no idea where they are, who they are, but they're very moving. So more of the ceremony. And here we are. We went through the entire list of people. I think there was like 3,000 names on the sheet, most of them unnamed. Some of them they couldn't even determine their gender, but they were so deteriorated. So we announced their names, and then we said, "Presente." That's what this says right here. And I like this this bumper sticker. "We didn't cross the border crossed us." And that's kind of the feeling that the locals have there. They didn't do anything to ask for this, it just happened to them. So after we left the rally wall, we went into Mexico. This is the pedestrian entry. Now, I noticed the sign here. They don't allow weapons there. This is where you walk through. And this is the actual vehicle port. Don't go to Mexico unless you have at least a couple of hours minimum to come back into the country, because there's going to be that much of a delay. Randy, the pastor, was going to take his car to some mechanic that he knew in Mexico. It took him 2.5 hours to get back home after that. We're just joining up here. This is on the Mexico side. This is one of the barber shops there. You can see the wall looks almost the same on both sides. And you started seeing pictures of this young man This is a 13-year-old Hispanic boy who was shot 16 times by a border patrol officer through the fence up here. And his crime was he was throwing rocks. Now, you tell me he's got an arm to throw through the slats in that wall. The border officer that was tried, he's been tried twice now and acquitted completely on both counts. And it's left a bad taste in a lot of folks' mouth there. This is where the shooting occurred. I think they only shot the kid 3 times, but they emptied the gun. And these are bullet holes up here where the shooting actually happened. And Randy, in 2012, when this happened, he went there the day after, was walking to someplace, and the blood was still on the streets in Mexico. And this is another memorial to him, and this. And if you guys get any of the literature that we have on the handout, you'll read about this young man. They do a lot of art to take your mind off of the fence, I guess, or off the wall. Kind of creative stuff. We were heading for the La Roca, which is a shelter, temporary shelter, that is used for asylum seekers who are waiting for their court dates to come. And we walked and walked and walked and finally got there to find this. It's up on this rock. The steps up there were pretty dangerous. We only had one person fall, and it wasn't me. When we got up to the top, Randy was going to go in and take us in. It was empty. There were no people around. And he said, if you don't want to risk getting bed bugs or lice, I don't think I would go in there. We did open the door and look, and there were just multiple pallets laying on the floor. We delivered the blankets that we were going to take to that shelter for Randy, and closed the door and left. And Ruth was really happy I didn't bring bed bugs home. This just shows you some of the poverty. We had a lot of decompression sessions. This group of people, we all see different things at different times and how these affect immigrants. And so it was really important that we got together in a group and chatted and told our stories and our feelings. And that's quite a group of us there, as you can see. And there's Rito again. He took his checkpoint checks in stride and was a happy guy, so that was good. This is the cross that Ruth made, and you guys blessed for me and mounted on the wall. And we're back to that prickly, heart-shaped cactus. And I think most of us in this room, our hearts are in the right place, but we have to question and think for ourselves about what's really going on there. And remember that humanitarian aid is never a crime, and you have to put yourself in the immigrant's shoes and in the ways that they have to travel, and when they get to the border, being turned around and refused the international law that gives them the privilege of coming into the country and asking for asylum. That's been totally shut down at this point. There's zero tolerance. And so, kind of the feeling I got from most of the local people there was the border wall would be very wasteful at $500,000 or $500 billion, because it's not going to work. There's already 2,000 miles of wall in place, and the people are still coming. And it's very damaging to the environment, and they are already spending billions on surveillance, which is very accurate. about Operation Streamline. It's a very lucrative kangaroo court for the criminalized migration. It costs taxpayers billions annually to incarcerate migrants prior to deportation. So they catch these people and they put them through the court proceeding, and then they rush them off to these private prisons to serve X number of months, and then we dump them. I mean, what do we get out of that, other than paying a lot of money to incarcerate them and run them through the legal system? And I'm gonna repeat myself one more time. Humanitarianism is never a crime. The true danger at the border is the idea of the dangerous, violent border. The crime rate among immigrants is very low. And there's that current zero tolerance. The asylum seekers, you know, you think about going 2,000 miles, and in fact, they told us one story, this man from Honduras who ran into a gang of MS-13, which we hear about. They're very prevalent in Honduras and El Salvador. This man had both arms chopped off. I'm not going to say amputated because it wasn't a clean cut. And he was with his teenage son, who they were threatening to kidnap and kill if he didn't agree to join the group, the gang. And so this man felt like, I have to get him out of this country or he's going to be killed. And he showed up at the border with both arms chopped off, with his son, with his story, and was refused asylum. So, you know, what is it going to take? Oftentimes when we talk to people about immigration, they will say, well, they shouldn't have come here illegally. Well, my response to that is, walking to the border is not illegal, and seeking asylum is not illegal, and being Hispanic is not illegal. So the people really didn't do anything wrong, and yet they're being sent back to their home country to probably be killed by the same people they were trying to escape from. So I'm also having issues with worshiping the child in the manger when I know that there are babies at the border who are being tear gassed. It just doesn't make sense to me. And if your response is the parents should not have brought their children here illegally. This is a quote from Brene Brown, who's an activist in Mexico. Know this, I pray to God that you never have to flee violence or poverty or persecution with your children. And if the day comes that you must, your babies are being forcefully removed from your arms, I will fight for you too. And that's just gripping. So that is about my story, with the exception of an update from local stuff happening here in Minnesota. Because if you think this isn't affecting us, you're not right. In Sherburne County, which is the area around Elk River and Richfield, apparently, I looked on the map this morning. This is an email that was received last Saturday. Felix, a 38-year-old Mexican immigrant, was arrested by ICE in the parking lot of the St. Peter's Catholic Church in Richfield. He is now in the Sherburne County Jail. Felix is a Saradot? It's a priest. The other word for it is priest. And some of the Catholics in the room may know. He was on his way to church with his wife and his 3 children, aged 18, 17, and 12. His wife, Maria, and their children were allowed to leave. And we're talking Minnesota here, guys. The arrest happened on church property, and this is contrary to ICE policy against taking enforcement actions at sensitive locations, is what churches are called. So immediately the immigration team from the UCC intervened and got an attorney to go visit with him. And he was deported, I think, on Thursday, last Thursday. So even though he's done nothing, he had no criminal record. He did have a previous deportation on his record, so that lets him out. And this is how we treat our people here who are doing their work and paying their taxes and doing their things, and still we're deporting them, along with the soldiers who are immigrants as well. So on that light note, I'm finished. If anybody has a question, I might be able to answer. Yes?
How many days were you there this year, and what was the appreciable difference that you noticed between this year and last year?
We were there 5 days and 4 nights, which is a whole other story. But the appreciable differences I noticed was the irritability at the courtroom when we went in to do the Operation Streamline. Of course, you have to go through security. And I was emptying my pockets, and I had this button on that says, "My people are immigrants." And so I thought, well, for sure ring the bell if I leave that on. So I took it off, and as I did, dropped it on the floor instead of in the basket. And he said, "What's on that button?" Real grouchy. I picked it up and flipped it over and showed him, and he said, "Well, you won't be wearing that in the courtroom." And I said, "Okay, no, not a problem." And I stuck it in my pocket. And then in the courtroom itself, the marshals just seemed really irritable and on edge. And after we had the courtroom session, we went outside, and a couple of the attorneys came out to talk with us, and someone mentioned that, and they said, "Yeah, everybody's just a little on edge because nobody knows what's coming next." And that's just kind of the general feeling that they had. The other changes were the razor wire, the mesh on the wall, and the pedestrian wall. Those are probably the physical things that I noticed right away. Anybody else? That was an easy one. Yes, sir.
I was in Tucson 8 years ago and watched them process them in federal court, and it's about the same as what you've described. I read in a magazine just last week that in 2016, that's the last year of Obama's presidency, they processed 360,000 immigrants through detention. Now, when I was there 10 years ago, they were processing 60 or 70 per day through the court, and they had about 5 or 6 attorneys. Half of those attorneys couldn't speak Spanish. They spent 5 or 10 minutes with each person, and then asked them if they were guilty, and of course, if they said they weren't guilty, they put them in detention, and if they said they were guilty, they put them on a bus and drove them right to the border without anything. Now, if in 2016 we processed 360,000, I don't know how many were processed in 2017 or so far in 2018. The problem is so massive. All of the things that you've suggested have to be done. There has to be more asylum given. There's got to be more money put down in Central America, but monitored, because the corruption in those countries is rampant. The money just goes right down the drain, and the people, it doesn't go to the people. The people don't have enough jobs. The coffee plantations and the banana plantations that are run by the people from the United States, they just don't provide enough jobs, and they're not on the right side of the country. I mean, there are so many things that are wrong with what's going on that it's hard to keep track of ways to deal with it, notwithstanding the drugs. But from my view, they've got to do a lot of everything, but including letting more people into the United States. Now, it's just a question of when you divide by the number of counties in the United States into the number of people that we would let in. I mean, it would mean something like, 100 or 200 people per month coming to Rochester. Okay, when you plot it all out, it's a massive problem, and everything has got to be done. Some people are forced to go back. Some people have to be let in. But
I apologize to interrupt.
what do the people think that are there? That were with you?
They know for sure that a wall is not the answer. It has not worked, it will not work, and that kind of expense is just, you know, we
Yeah,
have to
I
look
agree with that.
at the private prison systems. They think that if they change the name of their prison every 2 or 3 years, that people are just gonna think, oh, well, that doesn't exist anymore. They just put a new set of letters and sell it, you know, as a detention center. But yeah, the kangaroo court is the best description I can think of for that.
Well, we need to wrap up, but I wanted to thank Ray for being here and sharing her experience. About the resources, and I'll have them on the way out the
Oh,
door.
yeah, we have a sheet going around. If you'd like to sign up with your email address, we can send you that by email. Or I think there's